Hey, what's going on? Podcast Nation is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me in another episode of Strategy with Jason. This is a special episode of the podcast. I get to talk to every single person that's going to be speaking at the Kain Automotive event, which is literally only a couple weeks away. If you haven't bought your ticket, you need to buy your ticket now. I know one of the hotels are already booked because this event's so amazing, but I think there's like 3 other hotels. So you better go to kain.auto and get your ticket immediately. Today, I have a great guest. We get to talk about one of my favorite topics. Anything to do with analytics, I am all about. All right. I have Ron Andrews from CarsCommerce. Ron, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Dude, I know people like GA4. Really, you're gonna talk about that? That's exciting. What don't we do? But I love this stuff, right? Like, I mean, look, it's funny because at our physical dealership, our industry is actually really good about this. Like, they're great. Like, when they're building their physical dealership, they're really great about, fundamentally understanding the customer flow and where they hit the receptionist and how far they have to walk to the parts department and how far off from the parts department is the lounge and how the lounge kind of is connected over to the service. Like they understand kind of this customer flow inside their physical dealership, and they're really pretty good about it, and they'll embrace it. Man, they'll spend money on it too. And now here comes GA4. We got notified for a year. We needed to switch over. We've done it for the most part. Everyone dealerships hit that proverbial box, but now we get to kind of talk about today what's next. And I'm so excited to do this with you, Ron. But before we kind of get into that, I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story, because we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording. I don't think anybody just wakes up one day and goes, this is what I'm going to do for a career. So I'm curious, Ron, how did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story, actually. I was in college, and I was finishing up, about to graduate, and I'd gotten really into like web development and like content publishing and doing a lot of things on WordPress. And I was working for my university at the time, and I was doing a lot of things on their website, and also helping out, like trying to like recruit students and like grow, enrollments, all those kind of things. And I had a buddy that was working for a dealer group, and he was a service advisor, and he would always close the place down at night because he was also in school, so he had to work like the late shift. Well, apparently that day, there were like issues on their website. Customers were having trouble booking appointments or whatever it might be. So, he's closing down the service shop. The owner actually like walks through and, asks him like, "Hey, how was today?" And he's like, "I just want to let you know, like, we had a whole bunch of customers like really angry. Apparently our website's busted, it's not working right." And the owner's like, "Yeah, we really need to do something about that." And he was like, "Well, hey, you should talk to my buddy Ron. He's doing a lot, like, with websites and all that kind of stuff. Like, you guys should connect." And he did an introduction. And next thing I know, I was an intern there for a couple months, and they were like, "Hey, like, you should stick around and help us with our marketing, and we'll teach you how to sell cars." And before I knew it, I was selling cars, and then became an internet manager. And that group of stores ended up getting acquired by a larger group, and I was the e-commerce director for that group for a while. And then somewhere along the lines, I met some guys that were starting this little company called Dealer Inspire. And joined that, and I guess the rest is kind of history from there. So it's been a good journey, but I think the great thing about the story is that I get both the retail and the agency side of the business, and I think it helps kind of connect all the dots for the things that we're doing as part of CarsCommerce to help our dealer partners sell and service more vehicles.
Well, man, I look, I love the fact that you kind of fumbled your way into it. With someone going, "Hey, something about this something, right?" Yeah, actually, it reminds me a lot of kind of how I got into the business as well, right? Like, I kind of got in, I got conned into selling some cars from a buddy of mine I went to college with, right? And he's like, "Dude, you got to see my paychecks, man. You got to come to." I'm like, "There's no way that's legal. You're not making that much money," And it's like, I got sucked into it. And then, same thing. One day, someone goes, "Hey, who knows anything about this Yahoo and Ask Jeeves thing?" Remember Ask Jeeves? Like, I'm dating myself. I know. I'm dating myself. And I got sucked into it. That was just like the exact same thing, but like, hey, I'm glad you got sucked into it. And I'm really, really excited to kind of go down the rabbit hole that is GA4 and just some of the amazing opportunities that dealers have out there. I'm glad that everyone's kind of checked off the box, but now what? So
Yeah.
let's start with there, Ron. I'm a dealership. I've checked off that proverbial box. I got my GA4. My agency said that's done. I've connected between my online widget, my talk widget, my chat widget, and all these other widgets. They're communicating. Now, what do I do, Ron?
Yeah, I think too often in auto, like something like this comes out and we just check the box and move on. We say, okay, that's done. What's the next thing? And for dealers, I think the challenge remains pretty constant in understanding, like, what does the customer journey look like? And how do you optimize both your operations and your marketing to take advantage of those insights to drive greater efficiency, to create a better experience, and to make sure that your dollars are being spent in all the right places, to ultimately get more customers into your showroom or into your service drive, right? With GA4, there's more capabilities than ever to be able to do that.
Sure.
And, dealership CRMs, as an example, haven't gotten any better with like multi-channel attribution.
No.
And dealers are spending more and more money on advertising and software than ever before. I think in this year alone, the automotive industry will spend $6 billion on advertising, right?
Huge.
So that's a big number. And for dealers, like, you can't afford to just have wasted money, whether that be in advertising or even like all of the widgets and software and everything that you like plug into your website. You got to make sure that everything is firing on all cylinders. You got to make sure that your customers are having a seamless and easy experience, both online and in the store. And there's some great things inside of GA4 that 99% of the dealers that we work with are still not taking advantage of, or maybe aren't taking advantage of yet. And we're just trying to bring some of those things to the surface and make sure that it's helping to drive actual business outcomes and growth for our dealer partners.
Well, and look, here's the thing that I find with dealers, and I've been one. So look, we know what we know, and if we don't know, then we just simply don't know, But I think that's kind of where I think a lot of dealers are sitting right now, right? Like, we know what we know. And, if there is a way to optimize, or there is a way to, create better marketing strategies or better communication strategies or better engagement strategies, right? Like, I think as an industry, we're here, we're ready to listen, right? But the question always kind of comes down to dealership. It's like, well, who's going to do this, right? I mean, think of kind of like how you got started, right? Like, there was a problem, but who's going to do this, right? But let's actually start there. Let's go high level first. Like, what is some of the opportunities? Like, like, we're pretty good at solving things. Like, we love going, okay, there's a problem. Let me be the firefighter and go solve it. Let me put out that fire and fix the problem, right? So what are some of the opportunities? What are kind of the problems you're seeing that, can be solved with GA4 or the way that we approach the analytics?
Yeah. I'll go back to something that a owner of a dealer group that I work for used to say all the time that sticks with me. It's inspect what you expect. Every dealership, when they're spending money on advertising or, tools that go on their website, whatever it might be, the expectation is that it's giving them more opportunities to sell and service cars, right? Pretty straightforward. Challenge is a lot of the reporting you get tends to just end up in the garbage, because if you listen to every single report that every single provider that you work with gives to you, you would probably be selling 10x the amount of cars that you actually do, because everybody's like fighting for credit and everybody's trying to sort of, stake their flag in like this attribution world, right? The reality is that all of those solutions in some way, shape, or form are probably touching and influencing those customers as part of their purchase process, or as part of that journey that they go on when they're shopping and ultimately end up choosing, like, I want to talk to this dealership, or I want to go to that store, or I want to test drive that car. So what GA4 can allow some dealers to do is actually see, like, what are those touch points? What are the meaningful engagements? What are the solutions that are actually driving the most impactful outcomes for the consumer? And maybe on the flip side of that, what's not? And where can you start to maybe dial back some of the investments that you're making on both the software and the advertising side? Because we're in a space right now where margins are starting to compress, right? Like interest rates are rising, consumer demand is going down. Like these are all things that dealers just need to solve for. And you can't just be throwing money at the wall and hoping it sticks. So within GA4, you can start to like understand more of those consumer touch points. You can start to connect more of those solutions and that advertising that previously didn't really talk to each other. And you were just kind of hoping that you could cobble together some insights from all the different reports that you would get from each one of the providers. GA4 kind of becomes this like holistic, unbiased place where you can pull some of those things together and get some of the insights you need to make the best decisions for your store.
Well, I know you're 100% right. Any dealership that's watching or listening right now, for the last, decade or almost two, I remember, again, I'm dating myself. I shouldn't be saying things like this, but like I remember when internet leads weren't called internet leads. In fact, actually, some of the very early reporting that came out was actually they were just called inquiries. That was it. That's just like, hey, here's how many inquiries you got this. And at some point in time, some agency or some website solution decided to change that word into leads. But the funny thing, and this is where I kind of think this is coming full circle, because this is what GA4 does now, right? Is that it does actually really take a look at the approach from it is an inquiry. It legitimately is. It's an inquiry, right? But like, what did they inquire about? But what were the actions and activities that they took prior to getting that? When I think back, going to UA Universal Analytics, I got great reporting on the results. Like, here's how many live chats I got. Here's how many, form fills I got. Here's how many credit applications I got. But, it was very, very manual to try to figure out what was the path that someone actually took to ultimately get to there. Look, this is no different in our physical dealership. All right. If we had a lot of customers coming to our reception and saying they couldn't find the parts department, we would figure out why they couldn't find the parts department. Do we need to create some new signage? Is there a big SUV literally blocking the parts department so no one can actually see that? Like, these are the things that we're kind of talking about and how we're optimizing it. Here's what I got for you, Ron. I'm just kind of curious because I'm super excited, by the way, for your guys' workshop. And I guess it's not a workshop, it's more of a presentation, isn't it? Because you got a couple of you guys coming up there and kind of talking and diving into this. What are some of the takeaways that a dealer should kind of expect, to take away back to their dealership, during your presentation?
So two things. We're going to make sure that they walk away with some very specific reports that are already sort of natively built within GA4 that they need to make sure that they are looking at on a consistent basis. We're going to help like sort of elevate like their skill set and being able to diagnose and add some of the different segments and filters, so to speak, that actually get into the insights that they need to go into their reviews with their agency partners, with their software solutions, their website provider, all of those things, and have more engaging conversations, right? Like, I know how many like reviews our team does with our dealer partners every single month. I can only imagine for each GM, for each marketing manager, internet manager, whoever it might be, like you're probably on 20, 30 of those calls every single month. It's really easy to just tune out when people are just reading you stats, right? How can you go into those conversations with some very specific things that you want to cover and set some priorities with each one of those providers on how you can optimize the customer experience and optimize the results that you're getting from all of those different solutions and investments that you're making on a monthly basis?
And look, it really is an investment. I mean, to your point, we talked a little bit earlier, right? Like, this is a substantial amount of money that we are investing in driving people to the virtual version of our business. And look, if there was a problem at our physical dealership, we'd fix it pretty dang quick, and it's usually never a big problem. It's usually something small, like, oh, okay, yeah, we don't have a sign telling people that the parts department's over there. Let's fix that real quick, and this is the same thing. We now actually have this ability to look at this and say, like, how do we optimize this experience? We've talked about the customer experience for years. Now we have this opportunity to optimize that online experience. And Ron, I'm sure you've seen this play out quite successfully. And when it does play out well, can you give me a quick example of when it does play out well? How does it kind of benefit the dealership?
Well, one, dealers are able to make more effective decisions with where they're spending their dollars. And they also can, in many cases, eliminate some waste. I think every dealer would agree that they don't need more vendors. They don't need more software that they need to purchase. They probably don't want to continue to just spend more and more and more on advertising and get the same results. So, the dealers that are really like getting into the data, getting into the analytics, and understanding all of these nuances and all of the details that they need to make the right decisions are significantly more efficient with how they're spending their money. Some specific examples of that are like stocking inventory, right? Like floor plan costs are through the roof.
Huge, huge.
What if you could better understand all of the different vehicles that you have on the lot and how customers are engaging with them? And maybe most importantly, like which ones are actually getting the right interactions that are driving them to submit a lead or start a conversation or make a phone call. And which ones are, just seeing a really high exit rate, or maybe how are customers cross shopping as an example, right? Like dealers are getting more and more EVs coming from the manufacturer. Like, what if you could better understand like some of the cross shopping behavior between makes or models that customers are looking for when they come to your site? So ultimately, like, it's not just about advertising. It's not just about like, the tools and the widgets on your website. It can quite literally get down to like your inventory and ultimately like how you can make better decisions on the vehicles that you are acquiring and stocking. It can help you make better pricing decisions. All of those things naturally have some pretty significant impacts to a dealer's business.
Oh no, that significantly impacts my process, my people, and also maybe the technologies. We were kind of talking about that a little earlier. I call it the dealer stew, by the way. That's what I call it, which is we have this like stew of like different vendors and technologies, and we're supposed to kind of make this like taste good. And that's kind of where I see GA4. It kind of comes together and connects all these ingredients and a little bit of dash of CRM over here and a chunk of live chat and whatever it is, right? It comes into one place and it does that. And that does, you're right, 100%. This is not just a virtual thing. That type of information, that type of data will make big impacts in just the way I operate the dealership, and also just not just in our marketing, but also in what we're stocking, selling. Look, I'm so excited. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm excited. All right, for your guys' presentation, and I'm really looking forward to it. Hey, Ron, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time, and before I let you go, though, for anybody out there watching, listening to this right now, who would love to kind of connect with you or learn a little bit more about CarsCommerce, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, I'm pretty active in. I think that's probably the easiest thing. Just go on there, type in Ron Andrews. I should show up pretty close to the top there. If you need the exact link, just linkedin.com/in/Ron Andrews. It'll pop up for you. Shoot me a message. Always happy to share my cell phone or my email as well. If anybody wants to connect one-on-one on some of these things. But, these little, events that happen throughout the year, kind of beyond like NADA, are just great places to network. I'm always just impressed by how brilliant the people within the automotive space are. And there's people that bring a lot of fresh ideas to the table. There's a lot of great operators that are dialing in all of these things to drive the greatest profitability for their stores. And maybe most importantly, like there's some operators out there that are doing some innovative things that are driving really strong cultures at their dealership as well, because everybody's bought into the mission. Everybody's bought into using all of the different software that they're utilizing. They're looking at the data in the right way, and just a lot of great things happening. So I think the Kain event is going to be a fantastic place for people to get together, share some of those ideas, and hopefully continue to push this industry forward here. So I'm looking forward to it all, and appreciate you having me on here and giving me an opportunity to preview some of the stuff that we'll talk about in our presentation at the event.
Ron, thank you so much for your time. This has been a lot of fun. I too am very, very excited. And I think for anybody out there that hasn't purchased their ticket yet, you need to go to the website right now and purchase. And like Ron was saying, it's just an amazing event, not only for the networking, but great collaboration. Look, I know I can already tell Ron's going to be done with his talk. You're going to walk right up to him and have a conversation, actually sit down and continue that collaboration. I know you're like that. So it's going to be great. Thank you so much for your time today, Ron. I really appreciate it. You have yourself an amazing day.